Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is the third and fourth part in a series from the wonderful mind of WolfsCrown. As ever, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share and help build our channel and our community further and help us smash our way through the 30,000 subscriber mark. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's story, entitled I have been tracking a bounty hunter's story ever since 2016. Part 3. Let's get straight into that. Archives. It's been a while since I had updated this story. As I said in my previous post, maybe I will continue posting regarding this case. It is not as easy as copying and pasting archives. The reason why I was able to get the previous documents so easily is because they were posted in our city. Thus, our programs easily detected where they were posted, who posted them, IP addresses, a transcription of what was posted, and all sorts of private information. It took me weeks to track those too, and the search led me to a very interesting forum on what I thought was within the deep web. But I was wrong. Or at least I don't think it is the deep web. The website's forum was locked behind some code, and it took me several tricks in order to unlock the access to it. I had the username of one of the suspects, Crimson. For each post of this username, I had to do everything again, and it was a very lengthy process. That is the username of the bounty hunter I have been tracking all of this time, while the girl who went missing had the username Lullaby. This is probably the last time I will communicate with you, as I will post only the journal entries from now on. The website doesn't allow me to copy and paste these stories, so I must take pictures and write them myself. Not easy to do, especially if you have a full-time job like I do. I also really wish I could tell you that these journals are nothing other than fiction, fairy tales, or horror stories. But after that incident, the federal agent's private investigation on the burned house in 2016, well, I don't know what to tell you. Make up your own conclusions and believe whatever you want to believe. I only tell you that I pray every night to God that these journals are nothing but just stories. Post title: Ominous May. Posted by Crimson on May 13th, 2011. Hello everyone. I've taken notice that this forum is mainly used for you hunters to tell your stories, share strategies and tips on how to become better at what we do. I've read many stories, kept track of usernames, updating crazy tales of hunting and sharing heartwarming family photos. But unfortunately many other hunters never come back to keep updating us. God help them, and hopefully they're still alive. I will take advantage now that Ominous May is trending. I guess we share why we get into this profession, huh? Or why we are crazy enough to keep doing what we do. Alright, I guess I'll start writing my own journal starting from now on. Today, I will tell you why I chose this path, or exactly why this path chose me. I hope I don't get much off tangent since this is the first time I publish in this forum. The rules state that we can't share our real names, but I've seen lots of posts of people recognizing each other by nicknames they earned based on experiences they have gone through, like One-Eye Bill, Slippery Frank, or the Ghoul Hugger. So, I cannot tell you my identity, but I can tell you that I'm 19 years old and just recently started my hobby as a hunter. Reader, you may find useful information regarding how to find and destroy evil spirits, demons, or whatever these things are in the unnatural world. I specialize on sending them back to where they come from, or at least I think that is what I do. I work alone, but before you all start filling my comments about how stupid I am for doing this stuff at my age, you should read what I have to say. I already have experience dealing with spirits, and let me clarify that I am not a ghostbuster. In fact, I do this sort of thing as a part-time job for reasons that you should know. But first, let me tell you how I got dragged into this shithole. A couple of months ago, I went through some event that got me to where I am now. Many people will believe it's paranoia, night terrors, or the trauma that sleep paralysis causes. But this was not the case. I am a sort of college student, a regular guy you might say. I didn't belong to any crazy cults nor even consider myself the religious type at that point. It all started with a nightmare that I had of a tall, menacing, dark figure. Everything in the dream was black, cold, and overall an abysmal atmosphere. I was in a dark forest, as I could see the tall trees and their leaves being moved by the chilling breeze. However, in the centre of my field of vision there was a tall, dark figure, and this was the first time I'd ever seen such a thing. It appeared in front of me, and I could not see anything apart from its dark robe and tall stature. As it was standing in front of me, its gentle touch on my forehead caused me to feel extreme nausea, blurry vision, and severe weakness in my whole body. The figure began to produce a sound as soft as a whisper, but as loud enough to make my blood boil and raise to my mouth, drowning me. I know it's difficult to imagine, but I guess there is no other way to describe it, apart from what I felt. As my mouth began filling itself with my own blood, feeling my soul being taken away and my eyes losing vision as the seconds passed. With the last shortage of breath I had, I began praying. I couldn't tell this was a dream. So, in what I thought were my final moments, I heard the echo of the prayer that my grandmother taught me when I was little. It was resonating in my thoughts as I was beginning to faint, and that prayer is my way of telling myself that everything was going to be okay, hoping that something will hear my plea. As I began saying the prayer, the creature pushed me to the ground and vanished while blending itself within a dark environment. I could no longer see through my eyes as I was floating above myself, looking at my own body lying in the darkest of grasses, alone. The sound of the creature going away mixed with the heavy winds going to the depths of that forest as everything was getting darker. Everything was fading. I woke up. Just a nightmare? I thought. Yeah, how fucking wrong I was. Every now and then, I would get woken up at night by the strong negative energy, pure evil. I was not feeling fear. I was feeling terror. Night after night, I was afraid of this thing. I knew it was going to come and just stare at me when I was on my bed, trying to sleep. How is this possible? Maybe it is nothing but my own paranoia. Maybe there's nothing. Am I going crazy? I thought, while covered my face with my blanket as slow as I could. I was trying to calm myself, sweating and freezing at the same time, but this night I felt something gently touching my arm, freezing my whole body in shock. This is when I realised the creature, or whatever the fuck it is, was in front of me, waiting for me to open my eyes. I was screaming and panicking inside and remembered the prayer. I thought I could pray out loud so the creature will hear me and go away. As I tried praying, my voice was cracking out of terror. Also, I don't think I sounded very manly. I thought I was going to die anyway. My ears were ringing and I could taste blood in my mouth until everything came back to normal in an instant. The creature left, but I still felt its finger on my arm. There is no shame in admitting that I cried that day, since I was living a real nightmare. I told my parents about this and, surprisingly enough, they were not skeptical. You know the cliche of parents not believing your story? Well, this for sure broke the rule, as they thought they were going to send me to a psychologist to give me sleeping pills. They believed me right away. They made their best effort to tell me that everything was going to be okay, but I could tell they were very worried. My family is very religious, and after I told them about my experiences, they directed me to a person that could tell me how to deal with this stuff. You have to be kidding me. A damn fortune teller. This is your solution? I whispered to my father in disbelief. He told me that she was a friend of his, and that she was really good at what she does, and that she is what folk consider a medium, and let you speak with the dead. Honestly, I had nothing to lose by going to see such a person. It's not like I had any other options. Even if the solution was a placebo, I just wanted to sleep without a fucking thing bothering me again. I had recently bought a motorcycle, and I decided to pay a visit to such a person by myself. I arrived at her locale and it looked very average to me. A house in a private neighbourhood with a sign outside her yard that said something about tarot cards, fortune telling and that kind of stuff. I took more interest in the big bright $50 sign as it was a great deal. Yeah, a great deal for her wallet, I thought as I was getting off my motorcycle and walked towards her door. After knocking the door a couple of times, she received me as if she was my aunt. She gave me the story of how she and my father met and had been great friends ever since whatever. I wasn't paying attention. Even though she looked old, she was moving as if she was 30 and full of life. The most interesting thing about her, aside from the ridiculous bandana she had on her head, was a tattoo of an odd symbol she had on her left hand. I could not tell you more since I only glanced at it for a millisecond. Her house was very clean, but there was an odd vibe around it, and she was old, and she had a black cat that would just stare at me from afar. She caught my attention after she started acting preoccupied and took a closer look at me. She touched my arm, exactly at where the creature had touched me. She asked me in a very soft voice, trying not to alarm me, what had happened to me. This changed everything, as I felt that I could talk to her. How in hell could she have possibly known where exactly that creature touched me? After I explained everything in detail, she gave me a solution to my problem on how to get rid of the evil spirit for good. Yes, it was just an evil spirit, a strong one apparently, since spirits in general cannot touch mortals. No, guys, there is no magical weapon that lets you kill evil spirits. Instead, she gave me a long prayer and another paper that had a Latin chant written on it. I was ordered by her to say such prayers before going to bed. Let me tell you that it worked. Nothing happened ever since. I slept tranquil for days, until very stupidly I stopped doing the routine. It had passed around 2 weeks. Exams were coming in and I just forgot about everything, until one night I woke up by a familiar scent, an old friend. This time was different. Something was off. The energy was not only stronger and denser, I could feel the anger in the atmosphere. The energy was so strong that I could feel the aura of the thing. And this time I felt it getting on my bed. I felt as if something was hovering above me, then landed 1 foot at a time until it laid down completely beside me. The bedsheets started moving as if something was pulling them towards the opposite direction, leaving me completely exposed. Silence was overwhelming my conscience as my body temperature was through the roof. I was beyond afraid. But I calmed myself down after a couple of seconds. You see, I was prepared. After my visit to the medium, I studied the Latin chants and the long prayer repeatedly until I had memorized them for good. I had realized that if this thing was a demon and wanted to kill me, it was a fight where either it or me were going to survive that night. I spent lots of days rehearsing, lots of days reading the damn chant, training myself to say it, even if there was a total chaos around me. As I was thinking, the creature grabbed my arm with its freezing touch, started to make a familiar sound that it made on my nightmare. I, without moving a muscle and closing my eyes as hard as I could, murmured the Latin prayer as the dark figure aura was embracing me. I do not know if fate flipped a coin and landed on my favour, but the thing stopped grabbing my arm and began to retrieve itself as if it was being dragged towards the opposite side of my room. I felt a strong, fresh breeze on my face as the negative energy was being aggressively sucked towards something that I did not want to see. I could only hear the spirit unreal yelling in pain, dragging the bedsheets with it towards what I felt was a portal that opened or something with tremendous power. I kept going, praying, citing other prayers as my voice grew louder. I heard the yelling transforming into a high-pitched sound getting lower and lower until I didn't hear anything but cruel silence. I won't lie, I waited a couple of minutes before I had the balls to stand up and turn on the lights. I saw my bed, and it was a mess. The bed sheets were on the corner of the room. As I extended them on my bed, I noted long claw marks that teared the fabric. I was shocked to see such a thing, but there was something that had a peculiar glow. It looked like goo, and it had a very light whitish glow. It was along the claw marks, while other parts of the substance were scattered around on my wall. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a flask to get as much of the substance inside of it. I didn't sleep that day. I stared at such a substance for the rest of the night. I moved the flask up and down, observing how very sticky like the slime was. My parents were not home that day. I'm an only child and they had trusted me with the house. What a story I had to tell when they come back a week later, I thought. The next day, I skipped school, went straight to the medium, or the lady that helped me get the prayers. My guts were telling me that I needed to go to her at the time. so I missed my morning class. When I got to her house, I noticed that the promo sign was no longer on the yard, and the cat was waiting for me in the front of the door, as if it was expecting me. She received me into her house, and was beginning to tell me she was going to go away for a vacation. I had the flask with the goo wrapped with a warm cloth towel before she took notice of it. As I revealed the flask, I was weirded out that the goo had taken a very different form. However, it was still glowing a bit. It looked more like spiderwebs, but in liquid form, I guess. The lady was left speechless and asked me to take a closer look. She was fascinated and told me that it had been a while since she had seen such stuff. According to her, it was ectoplasm, not common at all. Spirits leave this stuff behind very rarely. In other words, you have a better chance at winning the local lottery than having to pull off what I did. Damn luck. I felt so badass and was extremely happy at the same time. She even offered me a sum of money for it. I refused. Common? Ectoplasm? Don't give me shit. I didn't care if no one believed it was what it was. I would have kept it as a trophy. But she kept insisting, convinced me that offering $1,000 in cash. I didn't ask too many questions, as I was in awe of the amount of money I now had on my hands. Before you ask, yes, I did fuck up her vacation trip, and she later asked me to put back the sign advertising her services on her front yard. I remember her explaining that ectoplasm is very essential material in real alchemy, or rituals that only gifted people practice privately. And so, I thought that this could be a very interesting part-time job that I could have. Of course, the money clouded my mind, and I did not realise how hard it will be to encounter another spirit and for it to leave ectoplasm behind. No matter, I decided that, in my 3 days, I would investigate for local stories of haunted places. So far, I had only met fanatics of the paranormal subject entering abandoned buildings and then shitting their pants whenever they hear the slightest of movement. I have met scammers that claim they have trapped a ghost in their house and people that strongly believe they have seen a ghost. You might be interested in the prayer I do. Well, according to the medium, it sends the spirits back to the realm they come from, to either purgatory or hell, where they can pay for the harm they have done in the mortal world. It seems like I'm an exorcist of sorts. I have sent back 5 spirits to the other world, counted also the spirit I wrote about. The other 4 spirits were not as menacing, nor left anything behind, but it's still quite a sight to see them get dragged to another dimension by an unknown force. Don't worry, hunters, I don't take video of this stuff. I'm not looking for fame nor TV shows on my ass asking me for interviews. Nor do I want the regular folk to see this stuff for real. They will just be a nuisance to me anyways. While I have been lucky these past months, recently I found out about an old abandoned school outside of town. The gentleman that lives near that building claims that there is an evil spirit lurking in the halls of the 2nd floor. People have sighted it from afar, stuff flying around within what they say they can see are classrooms through the broken windows. The gentleman always warns teenagers dumb enough to get close to the school that it can be a traumatic encounter. Rumour has it that even authorities refuse to get close to that building, and that phones stop working when you step into the halls. Well, I guess it's time for me to take a visit to such school, don't you think? I have been tracking a bounty hunter's story ever since 2016. Part 4. Let's get straight into that. Title: A Trial That Brought Life Back to Me. Posted by Lullaby on July 17th, 2016 at 11:32 p.m. Tonight is a very dark night. Not even stars can be seen up in the sky other than a shining moon. The blustery wind is the only sound I'm hearing as I am writing this on my phone. I watch as my tears hit the glass of the screen. I want my old life back. I want to be with my mum and forget about all of this. My name is Jessica. I am 18 years old and I got dragged to a different world by a guy whom I thought was a hero. How stupid and naive I am. A silly little girl, as mother used to say. You probably have read my post regarding the monster that pinned me down in the forest a week ago. about the horror I went through and my plea for help regarding what to do next. This is a follow-up, and hopefully you will understand why I did what I did. I decided to call the guy that saved me that night. I told him I wanted to see him, and thus he came to talk to me at my hotel room. He was carrying a backpack and had his motorcycle helmet on his hand. It was no ordinary helmet, and it had a very odd design. He came in wearing the same leather jacket and jeans, while his long hair looked wet and was down to his shoulders, like the very first night I saw him. I asked why he gave me so much money and what the fuck happened that night. He explained that it wasn't his plan to have gotten that bad, nor to have gotten me hurt in any circumstance. I am a bounty hunter, he said. I kill all kinds of shit on a regular basis. That thing was an equestrian. I don't know if you are lucky for being his target or extremely lucky to still be alive and sane of mind, he said, giving me a chuckle as he sat down in front of me. I continued listening as he was saying that he wanted me to use the money to start a new life elsewhere. It really pissed me off that he said that. His tone of voice was like it was normal, everyday business, as if I could live normally after that. I was beginning to feel weak, and with the little energy that I had left, I begged him, murmuring, to take me with him. I felt that I was going to faint. After all, I haven't eaten in days and I was feeling a very strong headache. He quickly gave me a lunch he had prepared that day, and I began eating it. It was a chicken with a bunch of vegetables along with temperature water bottle that he had packed in his backpack. I want to believe he felt pity for me, but I felt a lot of coldness from his part. As I was finishing eating, he was about to take off and I followed him. I had told him in our talk that the reason I wanted to be with him is because I wanted to feel safe. He told me that I would be allowed to be with him for a couple of days until I realised what I wanted to do with my life. He also said that he was going to make me feel safe again. I just had to follow and obey whatever he said without thinking twice. He was bothered by my request, but I believe he felt bad because of the look on his eyes. My mum taught me how to read emotions from looking into people's eyes, and his eyes clearly showed compassion or guilt, but you couldn't tell. I know this is boring to you, but this part of the story means a lot to me. This is the first time since my mum died that someone had cared this much for me. He gave me his jacket to cover my dress. He gave me food and allowed me to go along with him. He bought me clothes to replace the silly white dress I had, and I was beginning to look like my old self again. We rode in his motorcycle for hours without him saying a single word. I never asked him where he was going to take me, and it didn't seem like I had a choice anyway. I remember being lost in my head. Is this real? Why is this happening to me? Am I being punished by God? I usually cried whenever I thought of the face of that monster, its fingers and the way it moved, its eyes looking deeply at me and its disgusting odour. It was so horrible. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. This is the point where everything got worse than I thought. July 15. 2 days ago. We arrived at a cabin outside the forest area. I really don't know how else to describe it, really. Lots of tall trees and the natural wilderness making noises. I felt very disconnected from the world. As we got off his motorcycle, he finally spoke to me. Stay here. Don't move until I tell you to do so. He took off his motorcycle helmet and placed it on my arms. He grabbed the stone that was on the ground and threw it at one of the cabin windows. It didn't break, but it sure made a crack. I could not exactly tell why, but I saw a pair of hands being placed to the window from within the cabin and quickly taken off. For narration's sake, I guess I will call the guy I came with Mick. I think it is his name since he had a patch on his backpack that says Mick in one of the arm straps. As Mick got closer to the cabin's door, a slender and tall man emerged as the door opened. He looked at Mick with a look of despise and then looked at me with the same type of eyes. He was wearing a light brown robe with a hood on. I could not see his face other than the glow of his eyes from afar and the long grey beard he had. Lots of smoke came out of the cabin when he opened the door, and I think it was vapour, since it looked more like water evaporating than a cigarette smoke. Then the man's mood shifted as Mick and him exchanged a nod of recognition and went inside the cabin. I was around 30 minutes outside, looking at Mick's gear without touching. I spent most of the time looking at the design of his helmet. It certainly looked expensive. It was a dark helmet with an engraved design where the paint job made it look like a wolf's skull. You could not see anything inside the helmet, and it seemed very hard, like bulletproof. As I was glancing at one of the knives he had in his backpack, the door opened. Mick came with a bunch of arrows on his back while looking at the paper he had extended on his hands. What's that?" I said, very mortified, as I had a short flashback when I saw those arrows. "Don't ask questions. From now on, you are under his care. Jeremiah will take care of you when I'm gone." He didn't even look at me and took the helmet from my hands. He put the helmet on, used his phone to mark something on his map. He did not even say why or what was happening. I couldn't process the information, as he was already on the road, leaving me behind. "Wait, what? You can't leave?" I broke from the unreal experience as I heard the voice of an old man. "Girl, come in here," Jeremiah said firmly. I was unable to move. I was confused and scared while he was hurrying me to get inside. After I got inside his cabin, he removed his hood. It was an old man with crystal eyes. His face was almost blackened by how dark it was in the cabin despite the light of the day coming through the windows. "Don't worry, I won't do anything to you." He paused. "I heard that you wanted to feel safe again." He looked at me with his penetrating eyes and a grin that you could see through his beard. He had no pupils. They were completely white, as if he had cataracts or cloudy eyes. "Tonight is your trial. If you think you are the first person to come in my door with a similar story, you wouldn't know, because all of those people end up dead anyways." His calm voice, his manner of speaking. Every time his deep voice would finish a sentence, I could hear my heart pounding in fear. My eyes were watering as he stood up and handed me an old pistol. "Do you know where you are, little girl?" He crouched as he handed the gun, leaning closer to me. "We are right in front of the Loud Thunder Forest. Many people have gone missing. The fucking government is great at erasing their existence." He paused, pointed outside to the forest through the broken window. "Inside that forest lives a feared creature that could tear both of us apart in seconds, and it's called a Wendigo. Have you heard of it?" He continued talking right in front of my face. My eyes looked down while I was shakingly holding the gun. I was desperate to leave and run away. I didn't want to be there. It was getting hotter in the cabin, and the old man got away walking towards the other side of the cabin, where there were many flasks and herbs on top of a wooden table. He ignored my silence and said something that made everything around me silent. "Your job is to kill that beast." His words echoed in my mind and made me hear my own heartbeats. I broke the silence by yelling him, "No!" dropping the gun on the floor as I stood up. All of this felt so unreal. I was feeling my stomach twisting as the atmosphere made me freeze. "Do you want to live?" He sounded extremely irritated and annoyed. I didn't respond as I was in a total panic. "If you pass this trial, you will no longer feel afraid of such things. You will prove yourself capable of living and won't worry about pests like the thing that gave you that trauma. Worst case scenario, you die in the most painful way possible, but at least you will rest," he said as he was trying not to laugh in his sarcastic tone. "No, shut up, leave me alone." I remember I didn't want to hear anything else as I put my hands on my ears. I was on my knees looking down with my eyes closed, but I could hear my tears hitting the wooden floor. They sounded like a tick-tock in what it felt like a long silence. "Fine, I'll kill you myself and make you a favour by giving you peace." I heard him standing up and saw he was reaching for the gun that I had close to my feet. "No, please, please don't do this to me, please!" I broke down, looking up at him. He gave me the revolver, explaining to me that there was no time, that I had to pull myself up. He was right. I can't live up like this. I was shattered, but I still wanted to live. After I calmed down, I took the gun, murmuring, "Will it kill it?" trying to feel better. He gave me a big grin and told me, "Look, girl, a good rule of thumb is that it breathes, it can die. There is no such thing as immortality, even though the Wendigo is fast, intelligent, and the best hunter in that forest. It can be killed by simple silver bullets." He took off a couple of bullets from his pocket and showed me them from afar as they shined. He gave one to me and I stared at my reflection in the silver. After that, we had a long chat before nightfall. He gave me information about the beast. Wendigo. Why would something like that exist? The man described the Wendigo as a flash. It makes human noises. It can talk and lure anyone. A nocturnal creature that kills and eats humans without any mercy. He emphasized that he could also pay me very well if I could extract the eyes and remove the ice-cold heart it had, intact and undamaged. But I really didn't care. The old man gave me a sharp silver knife along with a long coat that was camouflaged to help me blend in with the dark. Nighttime came, and the wind was loud as the night. I was attacked by the Equasaria. The atmosphere was similar, but I only had one thing on mind. I really pulled myself up, but my gut was twisting. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. The night was dark, cold, and loud. I was outside the cabin staring at the dark forest, gun on my hand, and a sheathed silver knife in my hip. I couldn't use my phone, since the flashlight would make my presence obvious. I walked for what felt like hours. I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere and got lost in the heart of the forest. I walked straight, so I knew I could just turn back. I guess I was so scared that I didn't notice where I was stepping. I tripped and fell a couple of feet down, landed on my shoulder over the dirt covered by branches and leaves. It didn't hurt much, but my knees were bloody since I slid on the way down. I felt pain and began crying in silence. The gun was shining a couple of feet away from me, and this is the moment when I saw a fox, the size of a big dog, looking at me from a bush. I stared at it. Its shining eyes were so beautiful, the fur looked unique, and it was moving away gracefully. I don't know what it was, but it hypnotized me. I felt like I had to follow it. I stood up and I took the gun. I followed the paw sound straight ahead, and it led me to a campsite. It was abandoned, but the place was still warm. The camp beds were torn apart, except for one that looked to be untouched. There was blood that decorated the leaves on the ground. I was so lost in thought that I didn't notice how the wind had stopped making any sounds. The forest was silent, and the air got very dense. I got a knot in my throat and began loading the gun with the bullets Jeremiah had given to me. As I filled the chamber, I heard the worst scream behind me. It sounded like an adult man screaming for his life, but mixed with a woman's crying for help. I closed my eyes out of fear and very sloppily turned, shooting 2 times at whatever was behind me. I felt something, incredibly fast, passing beside me. I heard it again, the same scream, but instead of help, I heard the distorted voice of a little kid screaming, "Dad! Mom!" It made me scream in terror and fall to the ground. I opened my eyes and looked around, but everything was now darker, and the tears didn't let me see much. I saw a shadow pass by, aimed at it, and I shot again, but I didn't hit it. "Shit, shit, shit," I yelled as I only had 2 more shots. "Where are you?" I angrily screamed. Then, something from behind me pushed me to the ground. It made the noise again, and this time I heard the multiple voices screaming of horror of what I thought one cried, "God, please!" This time, I saw it. I saw its large, slender, and pale form. I saw its face. Even if it was dark, I could see its white eyes. Its deformed face with the long grin it had. It was a look of evil, a look that told me that I could not escape. It was toying with me. It was having fun. It raised its hand with its long, sharp claws as it slowly began walking towards me. I grabbed the gun and tried to shoot its heart, where Jeremiah had told me to shoot, but I aimed badly and hit its leg. It screamed in pain and anger and began hitting the ground in fury while looking at me. The creature's cries were louder than my own and really hurt my ears. It stopped yelling and stood up straight without making a sound. It used one of its long nails and pointed at its leg where it had been hit. I was horrified by looking at it, and that it hadn't affected it, not even a little. It grinned at me and moved closer as I was crawling backwards trying to get away. I closed my eyes and began calling for my mum. As the creature made laughing noises, I heard its laugh shifting towards screams of anger, and I started hearing multiple footsteps from the beast and something else. As I opened my eyes, looking back at the Wendigo, I saw that it was fighting with the big fox that I'd seen earlier, but this time it looked more like a dog. The fox had its sharp teeth piercing the Wendigo's neck from behind as the monster was trying to get it off itself. The Wendigo grabbed the fox and threw it to the camp with such horrifying strength, making the camp fall to pieces. But the fox came out, attacked back to the monster as it was nothing. The Wendigo's skin was being teared by the fox's bites, but it seemed to have no effect on it. The Wendigo got away from the fox and stood up in front of me, giving me its back. The fox was at the other side, and it was now growling in a defensive position, looking into the Wendigo's eyes. I don't know where I got this from, but I felt peace. I felt something. I felt my mum's energy telling me that everything was going to be all right. I felt so tranquil and peaceful. I grabbed the gun and gently stood up. As the Wendigo made the outrageous cry of various people calling for help, I shot the last bullet into the back of its head, cutting the monster's scream to silence. The Wendigo fell to the ground as I quickly grabbed the knife I had and began stabbing it multiple times until I saw its heart, and then began stabbing it too. I turned it around and began stabbing everything, mutilating it. I was no longer scared. I was no longer at peace. I was angry, and I was releasing everything on that piece of shit. As I stood up and walked away from what now looked like a bear's leftover meal, I fainted. I only saw the red fox sitting, staring at me with its glowing white eyes. I woke up. It was now daytime. I was now in a different part of the forest. My knees were bandaged, but I was extremely sore. I felt pain everywhere in my body. I saw a guy approaching me as I was coming back to my senses. Your luck keeps on surprising me, Jessica. I recognised the guy's voice, the outline of his body and his hair. He was now in front of me, sitting on top of a rock, observing me. Where were you? You did this to me. I was surprised to see him again, but also angry for him leaving me behind. Anyway, I felt extremely relieved on seeing him again. Yeah, great job hunting down that Wendigo. A juvenile, but a Wendigo nevertheless. He came closer to me, handing me a bottle of water. I regained my sight and saw he was wearing a dark outfit, similar of the previous night. He was covered in blood and had a sincere smile on his face. He had followed my footsteps from the old man's cabin, he said. He saw me passed out at the campsite next to the corpse of the Wendigo, hours after I'd killed it. While you were busy killing our friend over there, I was completing my contract. I went to the Wendigo's nest to eliminate the alpha and try to rescue whoever was still alive, he said as he was trying to get me up. Oh, did anyone make it out alive? I said as I was leaning on him to stand up. I remember I was more than worried about those people than myself, really. 2 guys. They don't remember anything. There were only 2 Wendigos in that cave. There were 6 other corpses. I can't tell if they were men or women, nor how old they were. Mick said, giving a chuckle at the end of his sentence, but I did not understand what was so funny. I asked him what happened to the other Wendigos, and he simply pointed to the bloody bag he had next to him. He took me up in his arms since he noticed that I couldn't stand nor walk very well. As he was taking me to the cabin, I did notice along the way that he had a scar on the left part of his neck. Hard to tell, but it looked like a deep cut. Hopefully, I won't get any of those, I thought. I told him never to leave me behind again. He looked at me surprised, but did not respond. We got back to the cabin, and the old man was waiting for us on an old chair outside. He gave us a bright smile and looked at me with awe. Mick sat me on his motorcycle as he began calmly walking towards the old man with the bloody bag he had. He threw the bag at the feet and then landed a punch on the face of Jeremiah, bringing him down in his chair, making his teeth shatter in pieces. You piece of shit! Jeremiah painfully yelled, putting his hand on his bloody mouth. You sent her to fight a Wendigo with a fucking revolver? You really wanted her to die, didn't you? Mick grabbed the man and stood him up. The old man reached for a water skin he had on him and began drinking. He screamed in so much pain that I even felt it. But I was numb to his suffering. I somehow enjoyed it. I was making you a favour, Wolf. You should know better. The old man started drinking again, drinking the last drop of whatever he was drinking. Jeremiah leaned on his cabin and began twisting his mouth while his closed eyes made that look that gave the impression that he was in severe pain. Fuck you. This is the last time I help you with Wendigos. Find another bounty hunter to fulfill your request, Mick said while staring at him, waiting for the screams to stop. The old man composed himself, stood up straight, and with his deep and relieved voice asked, 3 hearts, 3 eyes? No, 2 hearts, 3 eyes. You will pay us the full amount, Mick said in a threatening voice. The old man broke down laughing and said, "Ha ha, curse you, Wolf." He then proceeded to give Mick the money, while got the bloody bag. Mick walked towards me and got on his motorcycle with me on the back. He glanced at the old man one last time and I saw him waving at me, smiling with his bloody broken teeth. I looked down but then looked back at him. He now had his teeth intact and did not have any blood on him. I was in shock as he waved goodbye before going back to his cabin. I could not tell you more. Maybe my eyes lied to me. Next thing I know, while on the road, I was hugging Mick and thanked him for coming back for me. I didn't cry. I felt safe. The old man was not lying. I was no longer afraid. I felt better than ever, as if I had been reborn. I still have chills and still am horrified of what I have lived through so far, but I am numb towards it. The next day, Mick and I arrived at a motel and rented 2 rooms. He had deposited the money on a bank account and told me that I had earned $700 despite me ruining my Wendigo's materials. And here I am writing this now. Oh wait, Mick is calling me. I'll be back. I think this guy is hiding something from me. I just came back after I had a talk with him. Well, as the old man called him, Wolf. We had a quick chat of what we were going to do tomorrow, and out of curiosity, I asked him if he had seen a big red fox in the forest. He looked at me, giving me a surprised yet sorrowful look in his eyes. "A red fox?" he said with a tone of voice that reflected his shock. "Yes, it had beautiful bright eyes. It saved me from the Wendigo or Wendilo, whatever that thing was. It bit its neck and fought it before I shot the monster's head," I told him, while also reliving the experience in my mind. "No." His voice shifted. He said it very coldly, but he gained his composure. "I didn't see anything." He opened his room's door and began closing it. "Thanks, Mick, and good night." I smiled at him, trying to be friendly and also feeling very thankful that he came back for me. As he was beginning to close the door, he looked deeply into my eyes. He had a look as if he was being insulted, yet did not lose his temper. He simply said, "That's not my name. Go and rest." "That is not his name." Well, I really don't have a head to think about this anymore. This post has already gone too long and I am already very sleepy. But I feel very satisfied writing this, like when I was a little girl writing my personal diary. Today is also the last time I post in this forum. I will now start publishing at a forum where Wolf told me I could see stories of other people around the world. There is a hidden website where there are people who hunt all kinds of stuff, and they keep each other updated on their travels and share valuable information to support each other. Can you believe this? I can still feel the adrenaline of yesterday, but still, I'm very sore. I will post this story in that website too, under the username Lullaby. Thanks everyone for reading, and have a good night. Wow, and phew, that was a long recording. Hope you guys enjoyed that one as much as I. Did record this the other night when it first came out, but as I mentioned on the community tab, it just didn't record it, whether it's a program error or my mic, I'm not sure. But I hope you enjoyed it all the same. As ever, please do let me know down below in the comments though. Please do like and share, it really does help build the channel further, help us spread our message and our community further. And as ever, I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend at home with friends and family. And above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.